Just like every animal, we have an evolved species-specific diet that's biologically appropriate for us. And you venture outside of that and you can actually get harmed. The vast majority, if not all, of the so-called chronic diseases that we're treating nowadays as a mainstay of modern medicine are direct consequence of eating an inappropriate diet. We're eating things that we're not biologically designed to eat, and we're getting physiological harm from that. And this is manifesting in different ways, and we call it diabetes and cancer and heart disease and autoimmunity and dementia. But I really think that it comes down to the fact that we're eating things that can be directly harmful to us and disrupt our physiology and biochemistry and manifest as these sorts of diseases, these non-communicable chronic diseases, which are getting worse decade after decade after decade. So this isn't genetic. This isn't just always been there and we just didn't notice. That's a very foolish statement. Going on a carnivore diet is at least removing a lot of different things, like removing cigarettes or alcohol. You're just removing another cause of harm to your body. And what we see people do is they reverse their diabetes. That's been clinically proven with any ketogenic diet that you can do that. Autoimmunity, I mean, I've never seen anything respond better than a carnivore diet for autoimmune diseases, including all the different biological agents that we have to treat autoimmunities, and so many more. You know, we're getting more data about how high cholesterol in the ketogenic population with the lean mass hyperresponder evidence that's come out, data that's come out from Dave Feldman. They've found that no, you don't actually develop atherosclerosis even though your LDL is massively elevated in this population. And I don't think in any population, because I just don't think for a second that LDL is a causative agent in heart disease, simply because the studies that originally said this is associated with it were bunk. You know, they were fraudulent. They actually showed that they were inversely related. So the less cholesterol people had, the worse heart disease and heart attack and stroke they had, and vice versa. So when heart disease became the #1 killer in America, we were eating the least amount of meat in America that we had in 200 years. It was sort of a U-shaped curve from the early 1800s to the late 20th century. And right at the bottom of that was the 1920s and 30s, when this became the #1 killer in the world. And in fact, it went down. We were actually eating slightly more meat when the first heart attack was proven on autopsy, and we ate less meat, and now it's the #1 killer. So that's not even an association. There is no association. And people say, well, throughout the 20th century, meat consumption has gone up and heart disease has gone up. Fine. Look directly before that, there's no association whatsoever. So this is nonsense. Saturated fat sort of stayed consistent throughout the 20th century. Heart disease has gone up. Animal fat has actually come down as heart disease is going up. And we replace it with other sorts of fats and things like that as well. So this is a fraud. This is clearly a fraud. There is no association at all. And you know, the top cardiology journals are recognizing this. If you're still using artificial sweeteners, then that will absolutely keep your cravings going, and even things like milk and things like that. I have to be careful around milk. Yeah. Because I first of all, you know, we're talking about like sweetness. My palate has changed so much, so like the sweet sensation is much different. So if I drank like whole milk, it just tastes like I'm drinking ice cream. Like that's the same experience. I'm like, oh my God, it was so sweet. It's amazing. And obviously you want more of it. And then you raise your insulin, which drops your blood sugar, which blocks your leptin, and it makes you feel like you're starving, so you need to eat, and your blood sugar drops, your ketones drop, and you feel tired and horrible and lethargic. So you drink more milk to raise your blood sugar, and you play that whole game. And so you can easily drink more and more and more and more milk, and then you can get back into a sort of a carb addiction. Alcohol is another killer for this. People, every couple of months or 8 months or something like that, they're like, oh, this is stupid, I want to go out and drink. Alcohol has been shown to lower your inhibitions for eating crap food. And even when people are on just a normal standard diet, they're more likely to eat a lot of the processed, highly garbage sort of foods. And so this is a major way that people going on a carnivore diet or any healthy diet, they can end up falling off of that. It's because they drink alcohol, and then they go, oh, well, maybe I'll eat this other stuff, and they start eating a bunch of garbage, and they're just like, well, I guess I can't do it. And these things are a drug, and they can be addictive, and you can have cravings because of that. And that's pretty typical. After about 2-3 weeks, that usually goes away. If it's several months in, it's probably you're hungry and your brain's telling you, hey, you need to eat. If you go into a grocery store and you smell the bread aisle in the bakery and you go, oh my God, that smells amazing, you're hungry. Like that's all there is to it. So you need to eat. But you don't eat bread, you eat real food, like meat. And there's also the argument to be made that there are a lot of bacteria in our guts that are reliant and dependent on carbohydrates and fiber And when they start dying off, they start panicking and they start actually sending chemical signals up through the gut-brain connection into your brain. You start getting very strong and severe carb cravings and sugar cravings. And so when your microbiome is turning over and dying off, that you can actually get quite severe cravings because of that.